She took the wrong seat on the plane, unaware the man beside her was the billionaire she'd soon meet again. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's begin the story. Emma Brooks took a deep breath as she stepped onto the plane. The soft hum of conversation and clinking of coffee cups filled the air, and the low, warm lighting set the mood. She couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong. Not here. Not in this luxurious business-class cabin. Her dress was second-hand, her shoes scuffed, and she could feel her nerves tightening. She had promised her best friend, Jenny, that she would give this blind date a shot, but the truth was, she had no idea how she had ended up on this flight. Jenny had convinced her that she needed to get out more, to be more open to life's possibilities. The truth was, Emma was just barely scraping by as a waitress, and her dream of opening an art studio felt more like a distant fantasy than a real goal. But tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight was her chance to meet someone who could help her step out of this never-ending cycle. As she walked down the aisle, her eyes darted nervously across the row of seats. Table 7, she muttered under her breath, barely able to focus on the number. She reached her seat, but to her surprise, there was someone already sitting there. A man. He had dark hair, dressed impeccably in a sharp suit, and was staring intently at his phone. Emma froze. Her heart skipped a beat. "You must be Kevin," she said awkwardly, forcing a smile, convinced she had found her date. The man looked up at her, his face slightly confused. He blinked at her, clearly taken off guard. Hi, Emma," he replied, his voice low, as he set his phone aside. He stared at her for a moment, unsure of what to say next. Emma, embarrassed but trying to keep her composure, slid into the seat across from him. "Oh, I know this is a little awkward," she began, her hands fidgeting nervously in her lap. "Blind dates are weird, right? Jenny told me you might be a little quiet. So don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us." The man opened his mouth, about to correct her, but then paused. He had just received a text from his business associate canceling their meeting. Something about Emma's warm smile made him pause. She seemed so different from the polished, perfect women he usually met, genuine, raw, and completely unaware of who he really was. A faint smile tugged at the corners of his lips. "Right?" he said, choosing to play along. "Blind dates are something else." Emma laughed nervously and took a sip of her water. The conversation flowed easier than she expected. She talked about her struggles working in a diner, her dream of becoming an artist, and her constant battle with rent. Liam, this was the man's name, listened attentively, surprisingly engaged. The conversation felt oddly natural, as though they had known each other for years. She was about to ask more about his work when her phone buzzed. Looking down, her heart sank. "Hey Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7, looking forward to meeting you. Kevin." She blinked, rereading the text. Her face turned crimson as she looked at the man beside her. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she whispered, barely above a breath. His smile faltered slightly, guilt flickering in his eyes. "No, I'm not," he said. Emma's stomach churned. "Oh my God," she muttered, standing up abruptly. "I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table. This is so embarrassing." She grabbed her coat, face flushed, and started for the door. But Liam stood up too, calling after her. "Emma, wait. It's okay." But she was already out the door, her heart racing in her chest. She ran from the restaurant, feeling mortified. What was she doing? How could she have made such a mistake? Meanwhile, Liam stood there, watching her leave, a strange mix of regret and curiosity swirling inside him. There was something about Emma that intrigued him. Something about her authenticity, her honesty. Something that made him wonder if he would ever see her again. And if he did, why did the thought of not seeing her bother him so much? It had been a few days since the awkward blind date, and Emma couldn't stop replaying the scene in her head. She had rushed out of the restaurant, humiliated, wondering what she had gotten herself into. It was supposed to be simple: meet Kevin, have a drink, maybe a laugh. Instead, she had embarrassed herself by sitting at the wrong table and making a fool of herself in front of a stranger. She shook her head as she folded her apron at the diner. "What are you doing?" she muttered to herself. She had been too eager to leave, And now, she couldn't even get that date out of her mind. She had come back to her small apartment that night, grabbed her sketchbook, and tried to focus on the art that always brought her peace. But it didn't work. Her mind kept drifting back to him. Liam, the man from the plane, the man she had thought was Kevin. A knock on her apartment door broke her thoughts. She wasn't expecting anyone, so when she opened the door, she was surprised to see a delivery man holding a large bouquet of flowers and a card. "Is this for me?" she asked, confused. "Yes, ma'am," the delivery man replied, handing her the flowers. From Liam Parker. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she accepted the flowers, her hands trembling slightly. She closed the door behind her, and before she even read the card, she knew. Liam, the man from the plane, the man she had mistaken for someone else. She opened the envelope, her breath catching as she read the note inside. "I never thought I'd be so intrigued by a stranger. I owe you an apology for the confusion. I'd love to meet again, and this time, I'll be sure to sit at the right table." Liam. Her heart raced. Was this really happening? She couldn't believe it. He wanted to see her again, and he had sent her flowers. She stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do. On one hand, she was still embarrassed about the mistake, but on the other hand, there was something in Liam's words that made her heart flutter. Maybe this was a sign. Maybe she wasn't just another waitress in a world full of businessmen and millionaires. Maybe Liam saw something in her that she hadn't seen in herself. The next day, she decided to meet him. She texted him back, agreeing to meet at a coffee shop. When she arrived, she was surprised to find Liam waiting for her. He was dressed casually, a far cry from the sharp suit he had worn on the plane, and his smile was warm as he stood up to greet her. "Hi, Emma," he said, his voice genuine. "I'm glad you decided to meet again." Emma smiled nervously. "I'm not sure what I expected, but this is unexpected." Liam laughed softly. "I get it. I owe you a better explanation, but for now, let's just enjoy the coffee." They sat down, and for the next hour, the conversation flowed easily. Liam was different from what she had expected. He was kind, humble, and genuinely interested in her life. He asked about her work at the diner, her dreams of becoming an artist, and how she had been getting by. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like someone was truly listening. She found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't done with anyone else. But as the conversation continued, a part of her still felt hesitant. Could she trust him? Could she really believe that someone like him, someone who had everything, would be interested in someone like her? Liam seemed to sense her hesitation. "Emma, I know this must seem strange," he said, his tone softening. "But I promise, I'm not here to use you or make you feel small. I just wanted to get to know you better. And maybe, in the process, you could help me see the world differently." Emma's heart fluttered. He wasn't trying to impress her with his wealth or status. He wasn't trying to make her feel like she didn't belong. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt seen. After their coffee, Liam walked her back to her apartment. As they stood outside the door, he turned to her, his eyes earnest. "I know this might be unexpected, but I'd like to help you with your art," he said. "I have connections in the art world, and I think you have real talent. I want to see you succeed." Emma was taken aback. "You want to help me?" "What?" Liam shrugged. "Because I believe in you. And because I've never met anyone like you before. You're different, Emma. In a good way." Emma stood there for a moment, unsure of what to say. She wasn't used to people offering to help her without expecting something in return. But here he was, a millionaire, offering to help her chase her dreams. Could she trust him? Could she allow herself to believe that she deserved this kind of support? She looked up at Liam, her heart racing. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. Liam smiled softly. "You don't have to say anything. Just think about it." He leaned forward, giving her a quick, gentle kiss on the cheek before turning to leave. Emma watched him walk away, her heart pounding in her chest. This was a turning point. She didn't know where it would lead, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had a chance. A real chance to make her dreams come true. The days that followed were a whirlwind for Emma. She had never imagined a conversation over coffee would lead to such a turning point in her life. Liam's offer to help with her art career seemed too good to be true, and yet, she couldn't deny the warmth that spread through her at the thought. It had only been a few days since their meeting, but Emma was already feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. She spent hours looking through her sketchbook, wondering if she was ready for the opportunity that was being handed to her. Could she really take the leap? Could she trust him? Her thoughts were interrupted one evening when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "I've arranged something for you. Meet me at my office tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll talk more about your future in the art world." Emma stared at the message for a long time, her heart pounding. The butterflies that had once been a gentle flutter now felt like a storm inside her. She had been waiting for a sign, for someone to believe in her. And here it was. The next morning, Emma put on the nicest outfit she had, something she felt at least somewhat presentable in. She could hardly contain her excitement as she walked through the streets toward Liam's office building. It was a massive glass and steel structure, standing tall among the other skyscrapers of downtown. She felt out of place, but at the same time, she couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. The receptionist greeted her with a friendly smile as she entered the building. "You must be Emma," the receptionist said. "Mr. Parker is expecting you." Emma smiled nervously, her palms slightly sweaty as she followed the receptionist to the elevator. The doors opened to the top floor, where Liam's office was located. As the elevator doors slid open, she was greeted by a breathtaking view of the city. The floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline in a way that felt surreal. Liam was standing by his desk, looking out the window. He turned when he heard the elevator doors open, and a warm smile spread across his face. "Emma," he said, his voice filled with genuine pleasure. "I'm glad you could make it." She couldn't help but smile back. "Thank you for having me." Liam gestured toward a chair across from his desk. "Please, take a seat." As Emma sat down, she felt both out of her element and strangely at ease. Liam had made the atmosphere comfortable, as if they were two old friends, not a millionaire CEO and a struggling artist. He leaned forward slightly, his eyes focused on her. "I've been thinking a lot about your potential, Emma," he said, his tone serious. "I've seen the passion in your work, and I believe you have what it takes to succeed. That's why I want to introduce you to some people in the art world who can help you take the next step." Emma's heart raced as she absorbed his words. She had never imagined someone like Liam, someone with so much power, believing in her talent. "I can't express how much this means to me," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But I'm not sure if I'm ready. What if I fail?" Liam's expression softened, and he stood up, walking around the desk to sit next to her. "Emma, I've seen a lot of people who have everything but still can't find their way. What matters is that you're willing to take a chance, to believe in yourself. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to trust that you deserve this." His words felt like a lifeline, pulling her out of the doubt that had been holding her back for so long. Emma had spent so much time doubting herself, wondering if she was worthy of her dreams. But now, sitting next to Liam, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she was ready to take a leap of faith. "Okay," she said softly, her voice steady now. "I'll do it. I'll trust you." Liam smiled, his eyes sparkling with approval. "I'm glad to hear that. We'll start by introducing you to some key people in the industry, and we'll work together to get your name out there. This is just the beginning." Emma felt her chest tighten with excitement. The weight of her fears was slowly lifting, replaced by something new: hope. Hope that her dreams could actually become reality. Over the next few weeks, Liam kept his word. He introduced Emma to a network of influential people in the art world, setting up meetings with curators, gallery owners, and collectors who were interested in her work. The opportunities that opened up for her were beyond anything she had ever imagined. And through it all, Liam was there, offering his support and encouragement. He didn't just offer her connections, he offered her belief in herself. One evening, after an exhausting day of meetings, Emma found herself at a small cafe, sitting across from Liam. He had insisted on treating her to dinner as a celebration of her progress. As they sat there, Emma looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. "Liam, I have to ask," she began, her voice tentative. "Why are you doing all of this? Why are you helping me?" Liam paused for a moment, his eyes thoughtful. "Because I believe in what you're doing," he said finally. "I've seen too many people who have the talent but don't get the chance. I want to be the person who gives that chance." Emma was speechless. She had never met someone like Liam, someone who truly wanted nothing more than to see her succeed. She realized, in that moment, that this was more than just business for him. It was about something deeper, something real. And as they sat there, talking about the future, Emma couldn't help but feel that this was only the beginning. The beginning of not just a career, but of a life she had always dreamed of. And it was all because one man had taken a chance on her. As the weeks went by, Emma's life began to change in ways she never imagined. Liam had kept his word. She was introduced to a world of opportunities that seemed too good to be true. The galleries, the art collectors, the curators, they were all genuinely interested in her work. She had even sold a few pieces, which, to her surprise, was more than she had ever dreamed possible. What made it even more incredible was that through all of this, Liam was there, offering his advice and encouragement every step of the way. Their meetings were no longer just about business. They had become something more, something Emma had trouble defining. There was an undeniable connection between them, something that went beyond the professional. They began spending more time together, talking not just about art and business, but about life, dreams, and everything in between. One evening, after a particularly busy day of meetings, Emma found herself sitting in a small restaurant with Liam. They were celebrating her first solo exhibition, which had been a resounding success. Liam was as proud of her as she was of herself. "I can't believe this is actually happening," Emma said, her voice filled with a mixture of disbelief and joy. "A few months ago, I was just hoping to make ends meet, and now I have my own exhibition." Liam smiled, his eyes warm as he looked at her. "I knew you had it in you all along," he said, his tone sincere. Emma looked down at her glass, swirling the wine as she thought about how far she had come. "I don't know how to thank you enough for everything," she said quietly. "You didn't just give me a chance. You changed my life." Liam's expression softened. "You did all the work, Emma," he replied. "I just gave you the platform to show the world what you're capable of." There was a moment of silence as they both reflected on how much had changed. Emma felt a wave of gratitude, but at the same time, something stirred inside her, a feeling she couldn't quite put into words. As they finished their meal, Liam stood up, offering her his hand. "There's one more thing I want to do," he said with a mysterious smile. "Come with me." Emma, curious, followed him outside. They walked through the quiet streets of the city, and Emma couldn't help but notice how at ease she felt with him. The nervousness she had felt in the beginning had long since faded. Liam had become someone she trusted, someone she cared about. They arrived at a small park, the lights from the nearby buildings casting a soft glow over the scene. Liam led her to a bench by a small fountain, where they sat down. "Emma, I know we've been through a lot together," Liam began, his voice steady but full of emotion. "And I've been thinking a lot about what all of this means. About you. About us." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure where this was going, but she had an inkling. She turned to look at him, her breath catching in her throat. "Liam," she started, but he held up a hand, gently silencing her. "Let me finish," he said softly. "I don't want to just be the person who helped you get your art career off the ground. I want to be the person who's there for you, not just professionally, but personally. I've come to realize that what I feel for you is more than just admiration for your work. I care about you, Emma, more than I ever expected to." Emma's heart swelled in her chest. She had never expected to hear those words from him. She had spent so much of her life feeling alone, uncertain, and here she was, sitting next to someone who saw her, not just as a struggling artist, but as a person worthy of love and care. She felt her cheeks flush as she looked down at her hands, unsure of how to respond. "I care about you too," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't expect this either. I didn't expect you." Liam smiled, his eyes softening. "I know," he said, his voice full of warmth. "I wasn't looking for this either. But sometimes, life gives you exactly what you need, even when you don't know you need it." Emma felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She had spent so much time doubting herself, thinking she wasn't worthy of this kind of attention, of this kind of care. But here she was, sitting with Liam, someone who had believed in her from the start, and who now wanted something more. Before she could say anything more, Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. He opened it, revealing a simple silver ring inside. "Emma, I don't have all the answers, and I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now," he said, his voice low and sincere. "But I want to offer you something. Not just a chance to build your career, but a chance to build something real, something lasting. Will you let me be a part of your life?" Emma looked at the ring, then up at Liam, her heart racing. She didn't know where this would go, but she knew one thing for sure. She had found someone who believed in her, and that was worth more than anything she had ever dreamed of. With a soft smile, she took his hand, her fingers closing around his. "Yes," she said, her voice steady and filled with hope. Yes, I'll let you in. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam's bond deepened. What had begun as a chance encounter on a plane, followed by an unexpected opportunity to showcase her art, had now blossomed into something far more significant. They spent more time together, both in professional settings and outside of them. Emma found herself looking forward to their conversations, whether they were discussing her latest painting or simply talking about their hopes and fears. It wasn't just about art anymore. It was about a connection that neither of them had anticipated. Emma was slowly coming to terms with the fact that she was falling for him. Liam had opened doors for her that she never thought possible. The gallery exhibitions, the contacts in the art world, the financial support. He had been her rock. But it wasn't just the business side that she appreciated. It was the way he listened to her, encouraged her, and, most importantly, made her feel like she mattered. For someone who had spent most of her life struggling, this was new territory. She had always been on her own, fighting for a place in the world. Now, there was someone who believed in her, someone who was in her corner. But even with all the success and support, Emma couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place. Liam's world was so different from hers, and though he had never made her feel inferior, she couldn't help but feel like an outsider. Sometimes, when they were at his penthouse, surrounded by art and luxury, she would glance at him, wondering if he ever truly understood her struggles. It wasn't a question she voiced, but it lingered in the back of her mind. One evening, as they were finishing a dinner in a small, cozy restaurant, Liam looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Emma, I've been thinking, he started, his voice quieter than usual. I know I've given you opportunities, and I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything. But I do want to ask you something. Emma looked up at him, her heart beating a little faster. What is it? You've come so far, Liam said, his gaze soft. I can see how hard you've worked, and I'm proud of you. But I also want to make sure that you're not losing sight of your own dreams. I've seen too many people get caught up in everything around them and forget why they started in the first place. Emma's heart skipped a beat. It was the first time he had mentioned anything like this, and it made her pause. What do you mean? I mean, Liam continued, I don't want you to feel like you're here because of me. You've got your own talent, your own vision. I just want to make sure you're still chasing your own dreams, not just the ones I've helped you fulfill. Emma took a deep breath, feeling a mix of emotions. She had always known that she was grateful for Liam's help, but hearing his words made her realize something. She hadn't been focused on her own dreams as much as she should have. She had been so caught up in the opportunities he had provided that she had forgotten to carve her own path. She smiled, her eyes filled with understanding. Thank you, Liam, she said softly. I needed to hear that. Liam smiled back, his hand resting on hers. You're welcome. I just want you to be happy, Emma. And I want you to keep growing, whether it's with me or on your own. The sincerity in his voice made her heart swell. It was a turning point for her. She realized that she didn't need to rely on Liam to define her success. She had everything it took to succeed on her own, and while his support meant the world to her, she had to be true to herself. Over the next few weeks, Emma focused on her own projects. She worked late into the night, developing new pieces for an upcoming solo exhibition that would be her biggest yet. The process was challenging, but also incredibly fulfilling. She was creating work that felt authentic to her, something she had been too afraid to do before. She felt like she was finally stepping into her own skin. Liam noticed the change in her. He could see how focused and passionate she had become about her work. And though it hurt him a little to see her pull away from him professionally, he respected her for it. He knew she needed to find her own way. One evening, after a particularly long day of work, Emma sat down with Liam at his penthouse. She had just finished a new piece, and she was eager to show it to him. It was a bold, colorful piece that expressed her feelings of growth and change. As she showed it to him, her eyes searched his face for his reaction. He looked at it for a moment, then turned to her with a smile. It's beautiful, he said. This is your best work yet, Emma. You've really found your voice. Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had been unsure about this piece, but hearing his words reassured her. Thank you, Liam. I don't know if I would have gotten here without you. Liam shook his head gently. No, you got here on your own. I just gave you a little push. She smiled, knowing that he was right. She had come a long way, and now it was her time to shine. As they sat together, talking about her future and the possibilities ahead, Emma felt a new sense of clarity. She was ready. ready to embrace her own journey. And no matter where it took her, she knew that she had the strength to make her dreams come true. Emma's art career was finally taking off in ways she had only dreamed of before. Her exhibition had been a success, her work was being sold, and people were beginning to notice her talent. But even as her career blossomed, Emma found herself struggling with her emotions. Despite everything that had changed in her life, a part of her still felt uncertain. The questions she had been avoiding were beginning to surface. Was she really ready for this? Was she ready to step into a future that was so different from everything she had known? Liam had been her constant source of support, but even now, Emma couldn't help but wonder if she had built her new life on his help more than her own hard work. She loved him, but she also knew she had to find her way on her own. The morning after her latest exhibition, she stood in front of her easel, staring at the canvas in front of her. The strokes of color that had once come so easily now seemed distant, as though something was holding her back. Her mind kept drifting to Liam. He had given her everything she could have wanted, a career, a future, a chance to chase her dreams. But was that enough? Was it possible for her to pursue those dreams without relying on him, without living in the shadow of his generosity? She shook her head, trying to clear her thoughts. The pressure was overwhelming, and the quiet in the room only seemed to amplify it. Just then, her phone buzzed on the table, breaking the silence. It was a text from Liam. "I'm thinking about taking a break for a while. Let's meet up tonight." Emma read the message twice, the words feeling heavier with each reading. Was he pulling away? The thought made her stomach tighten. They had been growing closer, but this was the first time Liam had mentioned taking a break. She couldn't help but wonder if something had changed for him, too. That evening, they met at a small park near the city. The sky was clear, the stars just beginning to appear as the evening lights softened. When Liam arrived, he looked different. There was a heaviness in his eyes that she hadn't seen before. "Hey," he said, his voice quieter than usual. "I'm glad you're here." Emma smiled nervously, but she could feel her anxiety rising. "Of course," she replied, trying to hide the unease in her voice. "What's going on, Liam? You've seemed distant lately." Liam sighed and sat down on the bench, motioning for her to sit beside him. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About us. About you." He paused, looking up at the stars. "And I don't want to pressure you, but I need to know if you're still in this. Really in this." Emma felt her heart skip a beat. "What do you mean?" Liam turned to her, his gaze intense. "You've come so far, Emma. I've watched you grow, and I'm proud of everything you've achieved. But I'm also wondering if you're feeling the same way. Are you still following your own dreams? Or have you just been going along with what I've set up for you?" His words cut deep. She hadn't realized how much of her success had been influenced by Liam's help. She had been so grateful for his support, but in the process, had she lost sight of her own vision? "I don't know," Emma whispered, the realization hitting her hard. "I think I've been following your lead without even thinking about it. I've been so focused on the opportunities you've given me that I haven't stopped to ask myself if this is really what I want." Liam nodded slowly, his expression understanding. "I don't want to be the reason you lose sight of your dreams, Emma. You're capable of so much more. I don't want to be the one holding you back." The weight of his words pressed down on her chest. She had known, deep down, that she had been relying on him too much. But hearing him say it made her realize how much she had taken for granted. "But I don't want to lose you," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't want to lose what we have." Liam smiled softly, reaching for her hand. "You're not going to lose me, Emma. But I need you to be sure. I need you to be sure that you're chasing your own dreams, not just living in mine." Emma took a deep breath. She had always known that she couldn't build her future on someone else's foundation. But now, faced with the reality of it, she felt the weight of that choice. "I think I am ready," she said quietly. "I think I need to do this on my own for me. But that doesn't mean I want to lose you. I just need to find myself first." Liam's eyes softened. "That's all I've ever wanted for you, Emma. To find yourself. And no matter what happens, I'll be here for you." Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew that for the first time in a long time, she was ready to face it on her own terms. She wasn't sure where her journey would take her, but one thing was certain. She was no longer afraid to walk it alone. With a soft smile, Liam stood up and pulled her into a gentle hug. "You're going to be amazing, Emma," he whispered. "I'm proud of you." As they pulled away, Emma looked up at him, her heart full of gratitude and hope. "Thank you, Liam, for everything." They stood there for a moment, the quiet of the night surrounding them. It was a moment of closure, but also a new beginning. Emma knew that this was just the start of her true journey, and she was ready. Emma spent the next few weeks in a whirlwind of reflection. The conversation with Liam had left her feeling both free and conflicted. She had always known deep down that her success had been built on someone else's help, but it wasn't until that night in the park that she realized just how much of herself she had lost in the process. She had been following the path Liam had set for her, not out of obligation, but because it felt safe, like a comfort zone she could stay in forever. But now, it was time for her to step into her own light and find her own way. It wasn't going to be easy, and she knew there would be moments of doubt. Yet, with each passing day, she felt more and more like the artist she was meant to be, not because of Liam's connections or financial support, but because of her own hard work and determination. As she began to focus more on her work, Emma found that the creative block she had been experiencing slowly faded away. The paintings that had once felt forced were now flowing with ease. She spent late nights in her studio, sketching, painting, and losing herself in the process. There were still moments when she felt uncertain. Was she really ready to go solo? But every time she picked up her paintbrush, the answer became clearer. She was ready. During this time, Liam remained in her life, but at a distance. They still spoke, but the dynamic had shifted. They were no longer the mentor and mentee they once were. Instead, they were two people, each finding their way in the world, still connected by a shared past. Emma respected Liam's decision to give her the space she needed, but there were days when she missed his presence more than she cared to admit. One evening, as Emma was preparing for another solo show, her phone rang. She didn't recognize the number, but when she picked it up, she heard a familiar voice on the other end. "Emma," Liam said, his voice sounding softer than usual. "I've been thinking a lot about you." Her heart skipped a beat. "Liam?" she asked, surprised to hear from him. "Is everything okay?" There was a brief pause on the other end. "I think I've made a mistake," Liam said quietly. "I should have been more patient. I didn't want to pressure you, but I was wrong to pull away like that. I was just trying to give you space, but I've missed you. I've missed what we had." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She had missed him too, but hearing him say it out loud made everything feel more real. "I've missed you too," she admitted softly. "But I needed to do this on my own. I need to be sure of who I am before I can give myself to someone else." There was a long silence, and for a moment, Emma wondered if she had said the wrong thing. But then Liam spoke again, his voice filled with understanding. "I get it, Emma. I do. And I respect that. I just want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what. Whether it's as a friend, a supporter, or more, whenever you're ready." Emma's heart swelled with gratitude. She had been so afraid of losing Liam, but now she realized that he was giving her something even more valuable, the freedom to grow, to explore, and to find herself without the weight of expectations. "Thank you," she said softly. "That means everything to me." They talked for a while longer, catching up on their lives, before finally saying goodnight. After the call, Emma felt a strange sense of peace. She wasn't sure what the future held for her and Liam, but she knew one thing for certain. She was no longer afraid to face it. The next few weeks passed in a blur of exhibitions, new opportunities, and moments of quiet reflection. Emma continued to immerse herself in her art, and with every stroke of her brush, she felt more confident in who she was becoming. Her next big show was coming up, and she couldn't wait to showcase her new pieces, ones that were raw, real, and completely her own. It was at this show that everything came to a head. As she stood in front of one of her most personal pieces, she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned, and there, standing before her, was Liam. He looked at her for a moment, his eyes filled with admiration and something deeper, something Emma wasn't sure she was ready to acknowledge yet. "You've done it, Emma," Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've truly done it." Emma smiled, feeling a rush of pride. "I couldn't have done it without your support," she said, looking up at him. "But this is all me." Liam nodded, his gaze softening. "I know," he said quietly, "and I couldn't be prouder." There was a long pause as they stood there, the weight of their shared history between them. Finally, Liam spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "So what now?" Emma felt her heart race, but this time, it wasn't out of fear. She knew the answer. "Now," she said, looking up at him with a steady gaze. I take the next step on my own. But that doesn't mean I don't want you in my life. I just need to do this for me first. Liam smiled, a small but knowing smile. I think I understand. And in that moment, Emma realized that everything had come full circle. She was no longer the unsure, struggling artist she had once been. She was confident in who she was and what she wanted. And with that, she knew she was ready for whatever came next. As Emma stood at the gallery, looking at the crowd of people admiring her work, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride swell in her chest. This was her moment, the culmination of years of hard work, late nights, and doubt. This exhibition, this display of her own creations, was everything she had ever dreamed of. It was proof that she could do this on her own, without relying on anyone else. Her journey had been a long one, filled with challenges and unexpected turns, but now, standing in front of her work, she realized just how far she had come. She had built something real, something entirely hers. The opening night of her exhibition was a success. People were drawn to her work, discussing the deep emotions and raw vulnerability that she had poured into each piece. Emma moved through the gallery, talking to potential buyers, answering questions, and soaking in the experience. It was everything she had worked for, and yet, something felt different. She wasn't nervous anymore. She wasn't worried about impressing anyone. She had already impressed herself. After a while, Liam found her in the crowd. He had been there all evening, supporting her from the sidelines. She had been so focused on the exhibition that she hadn't even noticed him approach. "You've done it," Liam said, his voice soft but full of admiration. "You've really done it, Emma." Emma turned to him, her smile wide. "It's all finally happening," she said, her voice filled with disbelief. "I can't believe this is real." "It's real," Liam replied, his gaze never leaving her face. "And you did it. I'm so proud of you." There was a pause as Emma looked up at him, her emotions swirling. "Thank you, Liam," she said quietly, "for everything. I wouldn't be here without your help." Liam shook his head gently. "No, Emma," he said, his voice steady. "This is all you. You've earned it." As they stood there, surrounded by the soft murmur of conversations and the clinking of glasses, Emma realized just how much her life had changed. She wasn't the same person who had walked into Liam's office months ago, uncertain and afraid. She had become someone stronger, someone who believed in her own worth. As the night wore on, the crowd thinned, and Emma found herself alone with Liam in the quiet gallery. He turned to her, his expression serious. "There's something I need to say," he said. Emma's heart raced as she looked at him, unsure of what was coming. "What is it?" "I've been thinking a lot about us," Liam said, his voice low. "I've been giving you space, but the truth is, I've missed you. I've missed us." Emma's heart skipped a beat. "Liam, She stopped herself, unsure of what to say. She had spent so much time focusing on her career, on finding herself, that she hadn't fully processed what her relationship with Liam meant to her. Liam stepped closer, taking her hand in his. "I know I pushed you to find your own path, and I don't regret that. I wanted you to be strong, to stand on your own. But I realize now that I don't want to do this without you. I want us to be a part of each other's lives, not just professionally, but personally." Emma looked at him, her heart torn. She had spent so long trying to build her own future, to carve out her own identity, that she hadn't considered where Liam fit into it all. But in this moment, standing in the quiet gallery, she realized that he had always been there, supporting her, believing in her, and maybe it was time for her to let him back in. "I've been afraid," Emma admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "Afraid of losing myself again. Afraid of depending on someone else." Liam smiled softly, his thumb brushing over her hand. "I get it, Emma. And I promise, I'm not here to take away your independence. I just want to be a part of your life, in whatever way that works for you." Emma felt a wave of emotion wash over her, and for the first time in a long time, she felt truly seen. She had always been the one to push people away, to protect herself from being hurt, but with Liam, it felt different. She trusted him. She wanted him in her life. "I'm not sure what this means for us," she said, her voice steady. "But I'm willing to find out." Liam's smile widened, and he stepped even closer. "We'll figure it out," he said softly. Together. As they stood there, in the quiet gallery filled with Emma's art, the weight of their shared history and the promise of their future hung in the air between them. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she had everything she needed to move forward, not just as an artist, but as a person. The next chapter of her life was waiting for her, and for the first time, she wasn't afraid to step into it. She had found herself, and now, with Liam by her side, she was ready to see where this new path would take her. As the months went by, Emma continued to build her life in ways she had never expected. Her art career was flourishing, and she was now recognized as one of the rising stars in the art world. But more than that, she had found a sense of peace and purpose that she had been searching for all along. Her paintings were not just pieces of art. They were a reflection of the person she had become, strong, independent, and unafraid to embrace her own vision. Liam had remained in her life, but the nature of their relationship had shifted. They were no longer just business partners or mentor and mentee. They had become true equals, both supporting each other's dreams and growing together. Emma had learned how to stand on her own, but Liam had been there for every step of her journey, providing encouragement and love when she needed it most. One day, while walking through the city, Emma received a call from Liam. "Hey, I have a surprise for you," he said, his voice filled with excitement. "Meet me at the gallery." Emma smiled, her heart skipping a beat. She had no idea what he was planning, but knowing Liam, it was bound to be something meaningful. When she arrived at the gallery, she was greeted by a familiar face. Liam was standing there, holding a small box in his hands. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," Liam began, his voice calm but filled with emotion. "You were right when you said you needed to find yourself. I wanted to give you the space you needed, but at the same time, I couldn't help but think about the future. About us." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She had always been afraid of commitment, of depending on someone else, but now, standing in front of Liam, she realized that her fears had faded. They had both grown, both found their own paths, but somewhere along the way, they had discovered something deeper. "I think I'm ready for the next step," Liam continued, opening the box to reveal a simple silver ring. "I want to be with you, Emma. I want to be a part of your future, whatever that looks like." Emma's heart raced as she looked at the ring, then up at Liam. She had spent so much of her life questioning herself, but in this moment, she knew. She was ready. "Yes," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "I want that too. I want to build a future with you." Liam's smile widened, and he gently placed the ring on her finger. It wasn't just a symbol of their commitment to each other. It was a reminder of how far they had come together. Emma had once been afraid of losing herself, but now she realized that she wasn't losing anything. She was gaining a partner, someone who believed in her dreams just as much as she believed in his. The next few years were filled with new beginnings, but also moments of quiet reflection. Emma's art continued to grow, and so did her relationship with Liam. They traveled the world together, supporting each other in their individual pursuits, but always coming back to the love they shared. They had built something real, something that was grounded in trust, respect, and a shared vision of the future. As they stood together, looking out over the city that had once seemed so daunting to Emma, she realized just how far she had come. She had gone from a struggling artist, unsure of her place in the world, to someone who had found both success and love. She had found her own voice, and with Liam by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next. "We did it," Liam said, his voice soft but full of pride. Emma smiled, her heart full. "No, we did it together." They stood there, hand in hand, knowing that the best was yet to come.